What made you walk out of a date? I got catfished by a girl who has sent me fake photos. And it wasn't even close to her. She immediately addressed this, but in a way that would make it my fault if I had an issue with it. If that makes sense. Like, I know I lied about how I look, but only because I knew you wouldn't date me and look so superficial. No problem. Let's see who she really is. I wish that was the reason I ran for the hills. She invited like 7 of her friends as consultants or advisors and told me to pretend they weren't there. Sitting around at a huge table at Toronto's old spaghetti factory. All the while she's asking them advice while we're on a date. Like if I asked her, what do you do for fun? She would then turn to her friends and ask them what she should say. After the hardest convo of my life. She then asked if I wanted to watch some special edition Harry Potter with director commentary or something with all her friends at her house. I made up some random emergency and we never spoke again. Had a date tell me in the restaurant that her boyfriend never takes her anywhere and the only reason she agreed to come out with me was to make him jealous. This was after we had ordered. Figured she had to call her boyfriend for resistance on that one. She casually referred to our waitress as the N-word. I said nothing. Stood up and left. Plenty of catches in good old PA, but she was not one of them. It sounds outlandish, but she asked if we could have a lunch date and she wanted to go to Pizza Hut. We already knew each other, so we were having a good conversation. After ordering our sodas, she asked, I'm pregnant with my ex's baby. Are you okay with raising them? I was rather surprised. None of our mutual friends mentioned anything about a breakup, so I'm assuming they didn't know either. I told her I hadn't even known she was dating someone, and she said that it had been very low-key and casual. I told her I wasn't comfortable with the idea because the whole reason I agreed to a date was because she said we could take it slow and move at my pace. I'm extremely gun shy when it comes to relationships. Since my last one ended so badly, she said she understood and wasn't surprised, but had only recently found out about it and wanted to be upfront. Told her I appreciated it and that we should just call the whole thing a wash. I put $5 on the table for the sodas. We hugged and I walked out. We still keep in touch, which is nice. Took a gal to Starbucks. Bought us both a drink so we could sit and talk. About 5 minutes into it, she takes a phone call from a co-worker, puts it on speakerphone, and begins to savagely shit-talk everyone the two work with on speakerphone. In a small semi-busy Starbucks, both parties cussing up a storm. The barista at the counter asked her to take the call off speaker as people were trying to study. They were, and she proceeds to argue with the barista about how she can't take it off speakerphone. Blah blah blah. I instantly got up and apologized to the barista on my way out of the store. Didn't message her. Didn't hear from her. Matched with her on Tinder and we bonded over our shared love of food. She mentioned not having gone to any good restaurants in town and was tired of places like Kelsey's or Honester. Decided to take her to a really nice place in town as I had just got my tax returns and could afford a $200 meal. During the date she talked with me and was engaged right up to when she ordered her food, an appetizer, wine, dinner, a second dinner for lunch the next day and dessert. After her order was placed she took out her phone and spent the next 20 minutes just browsing Instagram while I tried to talk with her. Excused myself to the bathroom and instead talked to the waitress. Got her to cancel my meal and dessert. Only had my appetizer at that point. Split the bill and paid what the 20% tip for the whole thing would have been, as it wasn't fair for the waitress to lose out on her tip. My phone blew up about 5 minutes later when the waitress told her what was up. See, the funny thing is, I have no problem paying for a date, even if there isn't a spark, if my date at least is engaging/respectful. But being used for a free meal? Nah, duck that. There are more deserving people with less in the world that I'd rather give back to. She just kept talking about work endlessly. I tried to change topics by asking if she had any hobbies. Nope. Just ranted about how work wouldn't let her pursue any. Would just keep on talking about herself. How tired she was because of work. And basically made it seem like she was doing me a favor by coming out on this date when she could have worked. She did not even ask me any questions. Every now and then would check her phone and would nod in HMM and yeah, pretty much. I made up an excuse and left. Took her to my company's Christmas party. Everything seemed fine until we went upstairs with a few people to partake in smoking. Upstairs there was a chalkboard people had written messages and such on. Out of nowhere she got up, drew a swastika, and announced "Duck the Jews" with a giant grin on her face. I ushered her out and called her a cab. We referred to her as that racist chick thereafter. Pretty much after greeting she was checking her phone the entire time and only talking about herself, constantly interrupting me. She was blackout drunk before I got there. Back in college I was going on a date with this girl. She wanted me to meet her at a sorority house when I got off work around 8. I go there, she is blackout drunk on a couch and wanted to cuddle. I hadn't had anything to drink, so I just left. The next day she asked me why I never showed up. We didn't talk anymore. You told her though, right? People needs that type of wake up calls. Raged at the waiters and servers for cutting a piece of meat wrong. Raged at me for trying to help. I apologized to the waiters and bailed, leaving her with the bill. TLDR at the bottom. Here's a disaster of a date where I eventually took her home. Worst date ever. She was a 10/10ths, intelligent, and works at a big tech company that you all know. Funny part is, as we were getting to know each other through text, she initially declined me when I asked her out. In her words, "You probably wouldn't like me anymore." And she was right. First, she asked me to pick her up. She lived 30 minutes from me and about 45 minutes from the baseball game we were going to. No big deal. Except when I arrived at her place, she wasn't ready at all. She led me to her living room and asked me to wait there while she returned to her room to finish getting ready. Her roommate got home, apologized for my date taking so long, and had a couple of drinks with me while we waited. For over an hour. I probably should have left then, but I was having fun with a roommate. She was cool. Once my date was finally ready, I still had to make the drive to the game, and by the time we got there, the game was over halfway done. The seats were wonderful, right by the field with an amazing view, and all she did was take a million selfies, stare at her phone, and complain. Complain about the weather, complain about the crowd, complain about the game. After about 30 minutes, I stood up and told her, "I'm taking you home." We drove the 45 minutes back to her house without saying a single word to each other. She managed to squeak out a "thank you" by as she left my car, and we never spoke again. TLDR, girl made us extremely late to a baseball game, only to be on her phone and complain the whole time. I took her back home not long after arriving to the game. It was the most awkward 45 minutes ride in complete silence. She was pregnant, which actually I was totally okay with. Ladies growing babies need social lives too. But then she had a C idea. Okay, it'll be open-minded. Some doctors say you can have a glass of wine, right? Then she had a whiskey. Then she lit a cigarette. Then I left. It wasn't so much a date, but I was at a party at a friend's house in my early 20s and hit it off well with one of their friends. She and I were talking and dancing all night. Towards the end of the night we were cuddled up on the couch, and I was getting ready to kiss her when she said, "I'm so glad you're here to keep me company. I've been so lonely since my husband was deployed." She had not mentioned being married until that point, and I literally pushed her off of me and noped right out of there and never looked back. It was in my second date with the girl. She invited me to the movies. When we were waiting for the movie to start, she reads a message in her phone and with a beautiful smile tells me, "My parents are joining us for the movie. I want to introduce you. Maybe they will invite you to Christmas." It was August and a ducking second date. Then I told her that I was not interested on meeting her parents and that I was going home. Like this video and this good boy will be your mailman forever. We are Redditation, and we Redditate every day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a wonderful day, you magnificent people.